Hello, everybody. How's it going? Ben Gothard here with another Project Egg interview. And today we are talking to the awesome, to the fantastic, to the main man, Craig Ballantyne. How you doing today, Craig?
Oh, fantastic. Thanks so much, my man.
Really appreciate your time. Really appreciate you coming on the show. And as everybody knows, this is the #1 podcast for educating and inspiring entrepreneurs to take their dreams and turn them into reality. So with that being said, today, Craig, I want to start off by asking you, what is your story?
Oh, well, here we go. So I grew up in Canada, and I really wanted to be, believe it or not, a strength and conditioning coach in the National Hockey League. So I went to school for all that stuff, and then I started writing for Men's Health, Ben, and that was my big breakthrough. And then I started selling my fitness programs online, much like P90X. So everybody's seen P90X, and they may even have seen one of my workout programs on YouTube. I've had videos that have been watched a total of 8 million times. And
Wow.
then from there, I realized I wanted to start coaching entrepreneurs, and I wanted to help them become more productive. I wanted to help them develop peak performance, both in their energy and in their business and their marketing systems and their productivity. And that's what I've been doing for the last several years. And I wrote a book called The Perfect Day Formula, which is something basically takes my entire life's work, summarizes it, and helps people like you and myself and everybody listening to get the most out of their day.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So, Craig, I want to dig deeper into your history. I want to talk about, obviously, with your permission, your childhood.
Oh,
What
yeah.
what sort of family did you grow up in? What was that dynamic like for you?
Oh man, so I grew up on a farm, and my parents were super hardworking. They were absolutely amazing. Now they did have some struggles. My father was an alcoholic for 30 years, and that was really, really hard on the family. But we stuck together. And my mom was a super hard worker, and she would work all day as a receptionist, and then come home. And in the wintertime, she would sew clothes for us. And in the summertime, she would garden and can all the food for the wintertime. So I just was taught about the ethics of hard work and being very pragmatic in life. Now, we didn't have a great relationship with money, so that kind of set me back a little bit as well. But you can just imagine, very blue collar, very Midwestern type family that I grew up in. And I'm sure there's so many people listening. I have really lots of fans in Wisconsin, Iowa area who just resonate so much with my story because it's very much like theirs. So that's how it was.
That's incredible. So, being born into that family and having that sort of environment, what sort of kid were you? What did you like to do? What were some of your qualities? Who were you as a person at that time?
I was totally into sports, classic kid growing up in the 80s who just, played every single sport they could. Well, at least in Canada, it was hockey, baseball, soccer, the classics. Didn't play much basketball or didn't do much swimming, but those were the things I was into. At the same time, I was a bit of a nerd, so I loved to read and also have a bit of an introverted tendency. So I love spending time alone. And then I grew up out on the farm where I basically played by myself a lot when I wasn't playing sports with friends. I was, just kind of wandering around this giant farm. I'd leave at 9 o'clock in the morning and come back like 5 hours later. Because again, it was the 80s. You could do whatever you wanted. You could just wander around, and so that's how I grew up. It was really like free range childhood.
That's incredible. So you went from this free range childhood and I believe you said that you were into sports, you really like to read, so you kind of had both the jock side and the nerd side, if you will. I
Yeah,
say that lovingly, of course. I'm
yeah.
totally a nerd as
No, it's totally
well.
what it was.
So then, as you were growing up into high school, what did that look like for you? How did you change in that time, and did you kind of keep those same qualities? How did your life develop as you got into those older childhood years?
Yeah, I totally realized that I wasn't going to play in the NHL because that's what every kid wants to do in Canada pretty much. And so I realized that the next best thing was for me to either become a physiotherapist or a trainer or something because I wanted to be involved in the National Hockey League. I was just really in love with hockey at that time. Not really so much anymore, but I was back then. And so that guided me. I mean, I actually did homework in high school. And in the 1990s, early 90s, nobody did homework in high school, but I really wanted to get good grades. Now, at the same time, I had an after-school job, so I was working all the time. I started bodybuilding at about age 16, so I got heavy into weight training. And then in Canada, in a small town, you pretty much do two things. You play hockey and you drink beer, or you drink beer and then play hockey. Sometimes, it doesn't matter what order. I know I've done both. And so, I probably I got a bad binge drinking habit when I was in high school. That lasted through college years, but got rid of that eventually, stopped being a frat boy. But that was high school for me. It was basically school, work, hockey, beer, and girls, and video games. I played way too many video games in high
So
school.
moving from there, after your high school years, where did you go? What did you do, and what was your path from there?
I went to a college here. Well, we call it university in Canada. So I went to a school that had a really good exercise science program, and I jumped into that, went to that for 4 years, and still had that mission of being a strength and conditioning coach in the National Hockey League, of all things. And so I researched, what do strength and conditioning coaches have? And they have master's degrees in exercise physiology, and they had a certain training certification. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go and get my master's degree. And I got it at the same school. So I spent 6 years there. And it was halfway through that master's degree, when I started writing an email newsletter in 1999. And then I got my first article published in Men's Health magazine in 2000. And that was a massive breakthrough for me, because it gave me what I call critical credibility, which allowed me to connect with anybody, because I was the guy who wrote for Men's Health magazine. And in the fitness space, that is like the golden era, the golden pinnacle. It's like, if you got that, you got everything going for you. So that allowed me to break through, talk to people that were 10 years more experienced than me, build great relationships. And then from there, when I started writing and realizing I can get paid for it, that's when I went full nerd and went and just started creating, I moved away from training people in person, because my passion wasn't into that, and it was more into the online writing and business and programs.
That's incredible, that the shift that happened in what seems like a very short amount of time. And
well, I think I just didn't know that it existed. I think that all I thought was that I had to be a trainer or there was nothing else. In fact, no, there was this cross section of me growing up and the internet hitting at the perfect time. And so I was one of the first people to start selling programs on the internet. And, so I was very, very lucky, but luck is really opportunity meets preparation, right?
Absolutely. So when you were going through your master's and you're going through your college years, and you have this dream and you're pursuing it, you're doing, you Googled it, you figured out, or, maybe it wasn't Google, but you figured out exactly what you needed to do. Did you ever have any inkling of entrepreneurship bubbling up within you? Was that even on the horizon at that point in time?
I always thought I would work for somebody else. But the thing is, I'm actually quite unemployable. I'm not a very good employee. I like to do my own thing. But I was kind of raised with the mentality of go for the safety, go for the career job. And I love being part of a team. And so when I do work for people, I'm like, I don't want to, I'm loyal to them. And so I thought, maybe I would work for a team for 20 or 30 years, win some Stanley Cups, and it would be all good. But at the same time, once I started selling stuff on my own, I really loved it. And so I guess I was kind of like a reluctant entrepreneur. I didn't really want to go that route, but everything I did moved me closer and closer. And eventually I was doing it full time, and it was great. And it really is the thing that fires me up the most.
That's incredible. So I believe you said you started your first newsletter in 1999, yeah. right at that peak of when the internet's really starting to get popular. What inspired you to start doing that, and what steps did you take to actually make it happen?
Well, I can remember the day that I was in the library at the university, in the hospital library. So there were 3 libraries at my school, and one of the biggest ones was the health sciences library, which I spent a lot of time in. And back then, most people didn't have computers for themselves. They, maybe I had a couple of roommates in engineering who had them, but you actually had to go to school and use computers, and that's where you check your email. And I remember being in this computer lab, checking my email, and also at the same time kind of browsing the internet. And I found a website called testosterone.net, which is now known as T Nation or T Muscle or something like that. They've been around forever. And they were publishing articles. And I saw that and I was like, well, I can write articles. I know what I'm doing. I train people. So that inspired me to go and start my newsletter, which I then, believe it or not, started sending out by Hotmail to people. So at one point, I had 3,000 people on an email newsletter in like 2000, and I was sending the emails out by Hotmail. And you could only send out emails to 50 people at a time. Now, I was sending them out BCC, not CC, but so they wouldn't see everybody's email address. Mm-hmm. But I had to send out basically 50 or 60 emails in order to send out the 3,000 emails to everybody. So it would take me over an hour to manually send my email newsletter by Hotmail. So it was crazy, crazy old times. I mean, obviously, you would not do that today, but it was. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just kind of like taking steps and seeing what happened. And if it worked, I would do more of it. If it didn't work, I would do less of it. And it was fun times. It was total Wild West.
That's awesome. So when you had your critical breakthrough, or your critical credibility breakthrough, I believe you used that term, and it's awesome. Yeah. When you got on to Men's Health, how did that happen? And what was the chronology like with that compared to when you started selling your own stuff? Where did all these things kind of fall in the timeline?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, first of all, I got totally lucky with the Men's Health thing. I was looking for jobs on this job board in the strength and conditioning world. And I found the editor's address, the fitness editor's email address. He was looking for contributors. It was on this job board. And so I sent him one of my most recent email newsletters. And the next day he replied and said, hey, this is cool. Can we put it in the magazine? So, I'm like the worst person to ask for advice on how to get published in a magazine, because it's like, this is not going to work for like 9,999 people. It only works one in, 10,000 attempts. But that's what I did. And so here's the thing. If you do get a chance to work with people in magazines or books or television, realize that they are overworked and underpaid, and they're always under crazy deadlines. And what I realized was when they would send me an email and I got back to them really quickly, I was the only person that would do that because everyone else seemed to be too busy for them. And then they kept on putting more of my information in the magazines. And that's how the relationship really grew strong. And that's, I've still been writing for them for 17, 18 years now. And, still have the relationship with the people that worked there back then who have gone on to other things and other magazines. And so when I did that, that was the summer of 2000. And then in 2001, they started paying me a couple $100 every month to answer questions on their website forum, like one of those old forums that they had back in the day. So I started answering questions there. And then people started emailing me through private messages and said, hey, do you have a program you can make for me or I can buy from you? And, eventually I was doing these programs for people, but then I realized it's the same program I'm writing because they're all the same. They're the same guy. He's busy. He's married. He wants to lose weight. He wants to gain muscle, and he works out in his basement with dumbbells. Like every single guy on the Men's Health Forum wanted that workout. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to make a standard program instead of creating a new program for every single person. And I'm going to lower the costs, and I'm going to make a website and start selling it. And I eventually called it Turbulence Training and started selling it in, I think it was, I know I made my first sale in January of 2001, but that was more the custom program. But I think I started calling the program Turbulence Training in October of 2001.
Wow. And so once you started selling the Turbulence Program, what was that like? What was it like to have started off kind of being a reluctant entrepreneur and then picking up some steam in Men's Health and getting people reaching out to you and then getting into this whole world of digital marketing? What was that like for you as an individual, as a person? How did that shape you and really alter the course of things for you?
Well, I think for everybody listening that's just starting up, it's a really important lesson in that as soon as you get that first sale, all of a sudden you go, oh, this is amazing. You wake up the next morning and somebody's giving you money for something that you did in the past. You don't have to do anything again. And it was really cool. And I was like, how can I get more of this? And so I just became super hungry and super focused on like, how can I get more contacts? How can I get more leads? How can I send more emails? How can I add more value? What can I sell to that person next? And really, I mean, once that happened, it was just like a snowball rolling down a hill, and it gathered momentum and got giant by the end of it. And it was, I haven't looked back since. So I've really, really enjoyed it. And I still do this to this day. It's always about, finding what can I help people with right now. Always when you can add value, you're going to be able to sell your products and services and grow your reach and audience. And it's really been a wonderful journey.
Absolutely. So at what point, and I know I keep going back, but it's so fascinating to hear the story of it and to really drill down. But at what point were you like, all right, I'm starting to see some real traction here. I'm starting to actually, see this thing take off. What was that point that you were like, that it clicked and you were like, oh, sweet. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely in 2001, and then I know there was like another elevation of it in 2003, and then there was definitely another elevation of it in 2005 and 6, which is when I hired my first business coach. So, yeah, I mean, there's always going to be like these. You're going to go from here to here, and then from here to here. It's like you start vibrating on a higher level. You elevate and to the next level, and that's what it was all about. Was you're just going to have these inflection points. And so it was 2001, 2003, 2005, 2006 were some big ones for me.
Very cool. And so as technology is developing and social media is becoming more of a thing, there are different email marketing softwares that are coming out that probably were awesome. And all this new technology, how did you make sure to incorporate the new technology and really stay relevant throughout the years? How did you grow with the times?
Well, the most important thing is that video came along. And so video made us go from just, having these workout programs that people would read to delivering, video messages in your sales copy, whether it's video sales letter or delivering YouTube videos or delivering your products as follow along videos. And so it was really important to keep up with that. I kind of got out of the fitness industry before Instagram became super popular, but it was really for me the thing that I had to stay relevant with as my career went on. Was video was the most. And so I used to be really bad on video, but I have videos from my really bad era that have been watched over 2 million times just because I had good keywords and I was one of the first people to make the videos back in 2007. So I definitely experimented with it and kept up with it. Started selling some video programs, and we sold a lot of those. And I just never did the Instagram fitness thing because I was out of it by then. But that's a tough game if you're not in great shape. So that is something that if you are into fitness and selling stuff, you have to make sure that you're incorporating Instagram. I think that's the best social media out there these days for business.
That's great. And I love the actionable advice to go along with the story. So I really appreciate that. So as you're growing and you're expanding and your personal brand is building, you mentioned that at one point you kind of got out of the fitness industry. How did that occur, and what was that trigger that you were like, all right, I need to pivot, I need to make a change, or was it more of a gradual thing? How did that come about?
It was pretty gradual, but I mean, I started my first business coaching program back in 2007. So I had a seminar back then because so many people had saw me had great success online, and they were wanting to know how they could do it too. So I had a huge seminar. Well, not huge. I had 53 people, but it was, at $3,000 a person. Come to my seminar in 2007. Started a mastermind group back then. Started coaching entrepreneurs to come online and sell their own diet programs, fitness programs, et cetera. So I created a lot of competition for myself, but I was really enjoyed that more than I enjoyed teaching fitness. And then I started focusing more on productivity and helping these entrepreneurs become super successful with that. And that just grew, and I started having personal clients. And then I also started another mastermind group with a friend named Bedros Keuilian, and we ran that for several years. Then we started another one on top of that, and it was really just me gradually doing less fitness stuff and more business coaching, because that's really what gets me excited to work with these high-level entrepreneurs, much like the people listening to this call today, whether you're a beginner or whether you're, like some of my clients who are doing $20 million a year. I'm just super stoked to help you go to the next level, because I've gone through that iteration before, and I want people to experience that. And I want really good people to get their really great services and products out to the world, because the world needs more help than ever in so many areas of life. And so I just got so excited about that, and also started writing more about productivity, which led me to the Perfect Day Formula. So that was the evolution that's led me to where I am today.
That's incredible. So, we talked a lot about your past, and we really drilled deep into some key points here. But I feel like we've talked a lot about business, and we haven't really touched as much on the, your personal life and who you were as a person. So can you kind of fill us in all this time, who has Craig become? Who have you turned into as a person, kind of aside from the business tycoon?
Well, I would say that, growing my network has been incredibly helpful. So I like to say that I make money with friends. So that's been really awesome. I've have thousands and thousands of people on my newsletter list. I have 1,000 people on my private VIP print newsletter list that I send a little 4-page newsletter to every month as a gift, just because I want to stay in touch with people, let them know what I'm up to. So that, going from just a kid who is a farm boy who went to college and didn't know anybody to having this massive network has probably been one of the greatest things for me. And I've become more productive and less of a frat boy over time. So, I stopped the drinking, and I became better with all of my healthy habits and my productivity habits and my sleep habits, and just grown so many friends all over the world that it's absolutely amazing to I could think that I could get dropped into any country in a major city and know somebody where I could sleep on their couch, because it's just been that 18 years now of growing relationships.
That's incredible. And so, as you're doing all these things, I mean, it sounds like there are a lot of different businesses, a lot of different interests, and it seems like a lot of it centers around helping other people. But today, as we speak, what is your biggest focus right now?
It's a great question. And my biggest focus right now is my highest level of coaching for entrepreneurs. And I have these one-day workshops, which are 5 or 6 people in a room, and they're usually business owners who are doing 250,000 and above annual revenue. So oftentimes there's 7-figure earners in the room, and we're helping them, become much more structured, build more systems, go through their strategy for their businesses so that they can scale. So it's those 4 S's that we spend the day doing. And then after that, there's a year of coaching and follow-up. And I absolutely love it, because, again, I just meet so many interesting people through this. And then they refer me to their friends. And then I have a mastermind group on top of that. And then I have a different mastermind group with another friend, Bedros Keuilian, called the Empire Mastermind Group. So it's really about coaching the highest levels of performers. And I also have a couple of courses. I'm working on an Instagram sales course right now, because that's how I'm generating a lot of clients in my own business. And so I absolutely love it. It's just always finding new ways to add value to the world. And like you said, I mean, everything's about helping others, and that's what all my businesses are based about. And I love having the opportunity to help other people with big businesses, because if I can make them better, if I can make Ben better, if I can make my other clients better, then they're going to go and have more success and help exponentially more people. So back in the day, I used to go directly to the consumer, but now I'm going to the business owner, making them better and 10xing.
That's awesome. And it seems like that way it's a lot easier to leverage your impact and your influence over an even larger group of people, even if they may not always know that it's you, making sure that happens.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to be behind the scenes with the entrepreneurs and just, make sure that they are performing at the highest level, make sure that they have structure in their day, make sure that they're not overwhelmed, make sure that they have great family life, make sure that they're in good health. So again, they have great energy, because that drives everything. So I'm making sure that the high performer entrepreneur is performing at the highest level. And that's what I love doing the most.
That's incredible. So, we've been talking about performance and you're obviously the expert on achieving high performance. And it seems like at almost any level that, there are different ways that we can learn from you to achieve higher and become better. So for everybody listening and including myself, how do we truly achieve higher performance?
Well, first of all, it starts with an audit. It's much like when someone goes in for fitness training or to improve their nutrition. Well, we got to take a look at where you are right now. So I do an audit. I do what's called a time journal. So I would take a look at Ben's day and figure out where he is really effective, where he struggles with his time. And when we overcome those obstacles and we do more of what's working, we make you a more high performer. And we also look at your nutrition, and then we identify, well, what really matters in Ben's life? Is it family? Is it money? What is it, so that we focus more time, we make more time for what matters. So it's really about getting a lot of information in from the entrepreneur, the high performer, the executive, whoever it is. I work with actors and athletes too, just to make sure they're best using their time over the course of the day to move forward in big leaps. Because a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, we think, oh, I'll just do everything myself. And the next thing you know, you're doing $10 an hour tasks, but you're never going to make $100,000 or $1 million in a year doing a $10 an hour task. So we help people become better leaders, delegate all that stuff, so that they focus on what really matters, their highest performance, the best use of their time.
So just to kind of summarize and make sure that, make sure I'm understanding and just making sure everybody understands, because you've been dropping a lot of seriously strong value, and I really appreciate it. And, to everybody who's listening, I highly encourage you to actually go back and listen to this a couple times and really let the things that Craig has been saying sink in and really absorb it, because we've been tossing a ton of, Craig has been throwing out a ton of great information here. And if you go back and listen to it a couple times and really pick it apart and implement specifically, I guarantee you that you will see results and you can absolutely change your life. So that being said, to kind of summarize, it seems like what we want to do first in order to achieve peak performance, the highest level, the best that we can be, we first need to do an audit. We first need to see, what are we doing in a day? How are we spending our time? We need to make a time journal. We need to check our nutrition, check and see how are our leadership skills, how are our delegation skills, what are we actually spending our time doing, and how can we make that more effective? And once we find that out, then what do we do?
Well, then we need to make sure that we're aligning our actions and our goals. This is the biggest cause of stress in entrepreneurs these days. They see so many other people doing things. Oh, that guy, competitor of mine, he's running Facebook ads, and that one's doing all these YouTube lives and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, I got to go and do all these things too. But it's not true. What you need to do is what you're the best at, what's working for you, what's bringing you customers, what's helping you sell more products and services. You can't go chasing shiny objects. So I make sure that entrepreneurs are aligned with their goals and their actions. Another example is that a lot of entrepreneurs come to me and say, hey, family is the most important thing to me. I want to make sure I'm raising well-adjusted children. And then they're working 12 hours a day and they're commuting an hour each way, and they wonder why there's stress at home. It's because they're not aligned. And so after you've done the audit of where you are now, you have to make sure that your goals and your actions are aligned so that you're able to move forward faster on the path to success. And so there's a couple of exercises I do in my workshops that dig deep into the values and vision of the entrepreneur. And then we align that with a 90-day plan. We want to make sure, hey, here's your number one outcome goal for your personal life. Here's the number one goal for your professional life. We make sure those are aligned, and then we build the action steps to get there. And anybody can do that, just listening, they can say, okay, what do I want to do in the next 90 days for my business? And let me plan out the steps to get there. And when I have that in place, it's like the straight line to success. And that's what I coach everybody to achieve.
That's incredible. So it seems like first we need to do our audit, and we need to make sure that we have a really good point of reference of where we're starting. And then we need to figure out, okay, what actions do we need to take in order to achieve our goals? And we need to make sure that those are aligned and that we have some sort of maybe solidarity is not the right word, but we really want to make sure that what we're doing, what we're actually doing and what we say we want to do are working in unison to help us get to where we want to go. And then it seems like we need to come up with a plan to figure out, okay, well, what do I actually need to do every single day in order to get myself from point A to point B, and so on and so forth. Is that a pretty relatively strong idea of what we're trying to accomplish here?
Absolutely. I love that you use the phrase unison. You want everything working in unison. You want your family, your health, your wealth, everything, your experiences all in unison, all in alignment, your goals and your actions. And really, I like to use this analogy, Ben, that most entrepreneurs are like an Indy race car stuck in the mud. So imagine like you're at the Indy 500 and the racetrack is right there, but you as the car are just off in the grass on the side and you're spinning your wheels and you can't go anywhere. You're a high performer, but you're so scattered and struggling and stressed out, and you're just spinning your wheels. And I know so many people who are listening to this, they're relating. They're going, yes, I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. I feel like I'm capable of so much more. And then I come along with the coaching, and I pick you up, move you over like 6 inches. And then all of a sudden you're on the road and you're going 200 miles an hour. So that's what being aligned and having everything in unison looks like. And when people get that, they go, oh, man, thank you so much. And the next thing you know, they're going from 1 million to 10 million very fast.
That's incredible. So I have a few questions about the process. And I want to start by asking about the audit. So I feel like a lot of the times when we're doing this audit, we're like, all right, great. We're going to take stock of where we are. We're going to ask ourselves some really hard questions and get some really good answers. And I guess my question is two-part here. One, what questions do we actually need to be asking ourselves? Is there a set list? And then two, how do we make sure that we are giving ourselves honest answers? How do we know that we're not, pardon my language, but bullshitting ourselves?
Well, the questions are very clear. I mean, you will write down what you're doing every 20 minutes over the course of the day, how you're feeling. That's the time journal audit. Then you'll tell me how your day goes. You'll tell me what your goals are, and you'll tell me what your perfect day would look like if you could wave a magic wand. And so I can see pretty clearly where you're at, where you're not at, and where you want to get to. So most people will be able to explain clearly where they are, which is point A, and then where they want to be, which is point B. And then as a coach, I come in and I fill that gap. So the questions are very clear. You're going to get very honest answers from about point A. It's going to be obvious. I mean, no one's going to come to me and then BS me. I mean, what's the point of them coming and getting coaching if they're going to BS? I'm not forcing this on them. So they're coming to me knowing they have a problem, knowing that they're spinning their wheels. And so they're going to be brutally honest about that point A. And they're going to tell me, like, here's my potential. I know I can be at point B. And then I help them get there. So that's where you get started. That's the simplicity and beauty in the program.
And I love that you use the word simplicity, because that kind of comes into what I was going to ask next. You said that when, and I love the analogy of the race car, of how you're off to the side, you're spinning your wheels, nothing's happening. And then you, as the expert, as the coach, come in, lift people maybe only 6 inches and put them on that track, and then boom, they can go. Is it truly as simple as making a few, and I'm sure not every case is the same, but is it typically as simple as making a few minor adjustments in the things that you're doing? Or do you see more often that people need this massive overhaul in their day-to-day of everything that they're doing?
It's very, very simple. In most cases, it involves one word: no. Saying no to most things. So most entrepreneurs are doing too much stuff. They're saying yes to everything. And therefore, their focus on the number one thing that drives their business is very diluted. And so most of the time with entrepreneurs, I'm just saying, no, you're not going to do that anymore. You're not going to do that anymore. You're not going to do that anymore. You see, you're not going to do this anymore, and you're not going to do that anymore. And then we have filtered it down to the most basic, important thing in their business. And then they put all their focus on that. And that's that shift that puts them going down 200 miles an hour. Because most people, again, entrepreneurs, we start off, we're doing it ourselves. Oh, I'll take on more work. I'll just do it. I don't have time to explain to somebody else. I'm going to do that myself. Oh, here's an opportunity. I'm going to go after this. Here's an opportunity. Oh, somebody wants me to do this. Great. I'll do that too. And I mean, every entrepreneur knows and relates to what I just said. And the next thing you know, they're crushed and they're like, I only have like 10 minutes a day to actually sell my programs and services. Well, you got to cut it back. And so we delegate, we get rid of stuff, We just stop doing stuff. And when you do that, when you become super focused, then that's when you're super successful. And so Warren Buffett has a great quote. The difference between successful people and very successful people is that very successful people say no to almost everything. And this is a guy who reads 6 to 8 hours a day. Warren Buffett, that's what he does. He reads financial reports. That's how he became one of the greatest investors, well, the greatest investor ever and one of the richest men in the world. And it's because he puts all his focus into one thing. He's not trying to do 20 different things. And so that is a huge lesson for everybody listening. But that is essentially how we simplify my clients' lives so that they make more time for what matters, both personally and professionally.
That is incredible. That is awesome. And everybody, I know I've said this, but I'm going to say it again. Truly, please go back and listen to all of these things that Craig is saying. And I'm sure if you were to put a dollar value to all of this incredible knowledge, I mean, it would skyrocket. I mean, it would be in the thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars, the amount of value that Craig is sharing today. And Craig, I want to say thank you so much for that. But guys and gals, go back and listen to this and pick through all the separate things because, yeah, you know, it may seem very simple as we're talking through it and as we're all in the moment. But when you go back and look at it, this is a very well-defined process. It's a well-oiled machine. And if you follow it step by step, you will see results. And it can, if you allow it to, change your life. So go back and listen to it and implement. So, Craig, you've dropped some serious value bombs here. And you know, I can only say thank you so much to that. And we talked about your past. And we talked about what you're doing right now. But can we talk about the future? I want to know, where is Craig going? What does the future hold for the mighty Craig?
Well, I plan on building the largest coaching program that helps entrepreneurs do exactly what I described today. So I'm starting to certify coaches. I'm starting to build a digital platform for this because we've got the system down for the program perfect, because it just is automatic at helping entrepreneurs. And so now it's time to grow it and help more people so that they can go and have a massive impact on the world and have more influence and income in their lives.
That's incredible. So you mentioned how you wrote a book, and it's called, I believe, the Perfect Day Formula.
Yeah, the Perfect Day Formula.
So that begs the question, of course, what does your perfect day look like?
Right. So the perfect day, for people who wonder even what that definition means, is it means what's the perfect day that moves you ahead towards your legacy in life? And first of all, you have to know your legacy in life. And mine is to help 100 million people transform their lives physically, financially, mentally, and emotionally, while being a great family man and a great man overall. And so a perfect day for me is getting up at 3:57 a.m. I get up at 3:57 a.m. because I want to be early. I don't want to get up at 4 a.m. because that's late for me. And then I go immediately to writing my next book or projects for my business. And so I write for about an hour and a half. Then I do meditation. Then I walk my dog. Then I have breakfast. Then I work a little bit longer in the morning, do some meetings, have a workout, have lunch, check my email, and then do calls like this in the afternoon. And I'm done work at 4 o'clock, and it's family and social time. So that is my life. And that is my perfect day. And if I keep having those perfect days every day, I'm going to have massive impact by saying no to a bunch of stuff, saying yes to what matters. That's what it's all about.
So for people who, they may not totally understand what their perfect day is, how would you, and of course, let me preface this by saying, you gotta have the book. You gotta go get the book. I mean, the Perfect Day Formula, that's a no-brainer to go pick up. But how would you suggest somebody really understand at a fundamental level, what does my perfect day look like?
Well, it's very simple. First of all, you figure out what your perfect life looks like, and then you go, okay, if my perfect life in 3 to 5 years looks like this, I mean, living in this house on this street with these many cars in the garage, and this much in my bank account, and my kids are going to this school, and we're involved in these activities as a family, and I take care of my health at this time of day, and I work these hours. Okay, now it's very clear where you want to be. And then it will become very clear what your days must look like in order to get you there. And it's really, really simple. Here are the habits that you must build into your day. And so first of all, it starts with, where do we want to be? and then we just build that straight line to success. It's like going to Disney World. Everybody knows where Disney World is. You fly to Orlando, you get in a car, you drive to Disney World. Straight line to success to get to your dream destination. Same with your life. First of all, you figure out what your dream destination is in 3 to 5 years from now, and then you build that road to get you there. And it allows you to say no to the detours.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So, Craig, I want to thank you so much for coming on the interview today. I can't even express how grateful I am that you take time out of your busy schedule to come and talk to us and share all this great information. Really means a lot, and I'm very appreciative. So I do have one more question for you. Is there anything about yourself that you think is an important part of who you are that I did not ask you about today? In other words, what did I miss?
I would say that throughout the entire interview, hopefully people saw the theme of constant evolution, that, I'm not going to settle, that I'm always looking to improve, whether it's daily or every year. I'm not just going to settle and be the fitness guy. I'm not just going to settle and be a bit of a coach. I'm going to go and elevate, because I know that I'm capable of so much more. And everybody needs to understand that they are all capable of so much more. We can leave it all on the court, and we just can't stop. We just can't hold back. And so that is, for me, that is my motto, my mission in life, to do my best to reach my peak potential, be better every day. And I'm sure people saw that, but I just wanted to totally verbalize it and let everybody know that as they connect the dots over my journey in life, that it's been about that constant evolution.
Incredible. So, Craig, I want to thank you so much again for coming on the show. For people who are really fired up right now, they're amped up, they want to take the next step, they want to, connect with you further. What's the next step for them? How do they get more engaged?
Oh, there's two things. First of all, grab a copy of my book. Go to freeperfectdaybook.com. Grab your copy, just pay shipping and handling, and you'll have the blueprint to success. And then if you want to send me a message, do so on Instagram at @realcraigballantyne. And that way, just send me a direct message. We'll connect or comment on one of my posts. And I would love to hear from you and help you take it to the next level.
Fantastic. So everybody who's listening, I wanted to leave you with two things. One, go back and listen to this interview multiple times. This has been one of the heavier hitting interviews in the entire show. And if you guys haven't realized the value yet, go back and listen and take notes and listen some more and take all of this great information and implement. It will absolutely change your life. The second thing, go pick up a copy of Craig's book. I mean, for getting a free book after all of this value that Craig's been sharing this entire time, I mean, that's just the cherry on top. That is absolutely the cherry on top of the wonderful cake that has been baked and presented for you right now in this interview. So go grab a copy. There's going to be a link somewhere readily available to you. So, Craig, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
This has been a lot of fun. Great questions, and I love how you were digging deep. You got to dig deep. That's what makes a great interview.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And to everybody who's listening, thank you guys so much. You guys are the reason that we do this, and I love you guys very much. This has been another Project Egg interview. Today we've been talking with Craig Ballantyne from Canada. Thank you guys so much. And remember that this is the #1 podcast for educating and inspiring entrepreneurs to take their dreams and turn them into reality. You guys have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on the next episode.